Welcome back to the Delaware Way, using science to make more interesting and compelling art. That is the creative endeavor of our next guest, Roderick Hidalgo II, owner of the RH Gallery and Studios. Did I phrase that properly?
You did. Thank you so much.
That's what you're doing. Explain how that works.
So I work with a lot of different mediums. I work with beeswax, which is titled encaustic in the art world, and I work with epoxy resin, which is almost like a liquid plastic, acrylics, oils. So I work with a lot of different chemical bases, and I combined some of them together to basically get a reaction out of them and create artwork with it.
So it's chemistry.
Yes, pretty much it is. It is. But I look at it from.
What does it happen when you mix those chemicals together?
So, for example, one of the reactions, and probably the most explosive or satisfying, immediately gratifying, is probably the resin with different inks and acrylic inks that are injected into the resin while it's still active. So basically the process starts off with epoxy resin, which is mixed with a 1-to-1 ratio. So you have the hardener and you have the actual resin. So once you start mixing those two things together, it creates a reaction in itself and starts to harden and bind. So it's just a lot of adhesive at that point. And it's clear at that point. So I'll add
different... Is it thick?
It's very thick. It's almost the consistency of honey, kind of. When you start to mix it together, it's a lot like honey. So the viscosity gets to be thicker and thicker as time goes on. There's about a 45-minute window to work with it. So in the beginning, it's very loose, and then it hardens after that.
So you have to arrange it at that point? Do you paint it, or do you manipulate it with your, how do you form it?
There are different tools that I use as well. So blowtorch, heat gun, different trowels, or pipettes, or needles to inject into the resin while it's still wet, or to inject into the layer underneath of it. So there are just different material processes and different reactions that happen, and I've been able to kind of predict and grow upon each, each process. So over time. Is there anybody else doing this? I'm sure there are. There are tons of different people that work with resin and different alcohol inks that are all over Instagram, all over social media. I work with it in a different way. And in the beginning, I wanted to get away from that. I wanted to get away from what everybody else was doing and kind of make my own niche in the resin world. So
and is this new to you? Because you've worked with a lot of different forms of art, right?
I have. So the resin I've been working, that's the newest material that I've worked with. That's been about 4.5 years or so I've been experimenting with that.
I've seen you've been successful with this, and it says on your website you're in 20 collections, and you said that might be low, but that was a safe number because you're in at least 20, so you've been successful in your artwork, and I think that a lot of people that are artists aren't that successful in the commercial aspect of it.
Maybe. It's really difficult. I always tell friends that come to me, there's no such thing as a lazy artist, because you can't be. It's just like, unless you are really afforded that gift, I guess, of having somebody kind of take care of you right off the bat, you really have to work your way up, I feel like.
So people have to see you and believe in you. I mean, they have to see your stuff and go,
yeah.
I really like that. That's really interesting.
Yes, and I've heard a lot of people that I've sold my own artwork to, and then others in the gallery from other artists, that the clients and the people that are buying the work, sometimes they're really about supporting the artist. So that's their main objective. And, that's really a great thing to have. And that's gone back to Italy. I mean, patrons were how people got started. And that's how the famous artists that existed and that are in our books, that's how they made great work. So
it's funny when you were talking about the thickness of the resin and what it becomes when you put it together. I thought of Van Gogh right away, how thick his paintings are.
Well, I love that, and I'm all about texture. I have a show at the Contemporary Art Museum in April that's down here in Delaware on the riverfront, and that show is all about texture. So I just did a post on my Facebook the other day, and the texture is basically their words, their sentences, and I combine them together to create conversations within the piece because it's abstract. It's not a literal object.
So when is this show?
April 5th. It's in conjunction with the Delaware First Friday Art Loop.
And how do people find you online?
They can go on my Facebook, I'm just Rick Hidalgo, or at r.hidalgoart on Instagram, or my website is rhidalgoart.com.
Wonderful. Thanks, continued success, and thanks for being here today.
Thank you so much for having me.
It's interesting. I hope we're going to have artwork to show while you're talking about all this as well. Roderick Hidalgo II, owner of RH Gallery and Studios in Hockessin. That wraps up the Delaware Way for this week. I'm Larry Menti. See you again next week.